Hi guys, my name's Tom and this is Watercolour Bites. We're going to take a look at my top 10 tips for painting with watercolours. Let's go. Number 1, your materials do make a difference. No, buying the latest fancy brush and all of the colours is not going to make you a better painter. And there's simply no need for loads of materials. I have a good handful of colours, a few brushes and a basic palette. These serve me for all of my paintings. However, with the materials that you do have, make sure they are the best that you can afford and justify. Painting with those really basic sets is just no good. They don't behave like watercolours should and you will get horribly frustrated and you'll be far more likely to give up. There's some great student quality paints out there. If you can stretch to artist quality paints, great. The tubes might look tiny for the price, but a small amount goes a long way. The same with paper and brushes. Crazy expensive, no, but pushing your budget a touch higher may make a noticeable difference. But it's still up to you to practice with them. Yes, experiment and expand your materials, but quality over quantity is a great place to start. By the way, this is not the top 10 comprehensive list of all things important in watercolour. It's the first 10 things that came to mind for the type of painting that I enjoy. Number 2, there are no rules with watercolour, but there are limitations. So one of watercolour's most beautiful assets is that luminous transparency that so many of the colours have. But with this, the limitation is we generally have to work from light to dark. It can be very hard, if not impossible, to lighten an area once we've gone too dark, especially without overworking and muddying the paint. There are plenty of wonderful opaque colours, lovely and rich with good covering power, but even these cannot bring back large areas from darkness. And the other limitation of these is that too many opaque colours in a mixture can create a bit of a sludge. The bottom line, get to know your materials and your colours and it will improve your watercolour painting no end. For more info on the watercolour process, but also how we can break away from it, check out this recent video. If not already, there will be dedicated videos on each of these topics. Number 3, following on from no rules, it's totally fine to use white and black if you want to. Yes, there's a whole school of traditional watercolourists that do not use white under any circumstances. That's fine, but we don't have to conform to the industry standards if we don't want to, and there are plenty of wonderful watercolourists that use opaque white. Using a little opaque white is at its best when used very sparingly, maybe to pop in a few mist or very hard to paint around highlights right at the end. You can also get some amazing wet into wet effects, but go easy with it. Equally, black is our quickest route to a dark. It can be a little flat and dull by itself, but drop in some other colours and it can really come to life. Number 4, paint consistency is probably one of the most important things you can wrap your head around in relation to the medium itself. I've got a whole video breaking this right down, so I highly recommend you hop over and check out that afterwards. Link is in the description. But in short, understanding the relationship between how much water and pigment is in your brush and what level of drying a wash on the page is at will be one of the most important and instantly applicable things you will find in watercolour. Number 5, let the paint do its thing. Watercolour does wonderfully magic things that almost have nothing to do with us, and it is actually at its best when we focus on mixing a nice colour and a consistency, laying it down, then just letting it do its thing. And trust me, the medium will take on a life of its own and it will do things that you could never imagine. Yes, if like me, you come from a painting background that is quite controlled, this can be a bit scary. But if you can force yourself to let go, often my favourite parts of my paintings are when I've just let the watercolour take the lead. So we're halfway through our 10 tips already. If you're enjoying this and you're getting something out of it, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to leave a comment with your favourite tip, either one of mine or one of your own. Number 6, it's kind of an extension of letting the paint do its thing. Watercolour does not like to be fussed with. If we start fiddling around with a drying wash and disturbing the pigment, we will get horrible marks and an overworked and kind of muddy look to the paint. It also doesn't really like too many layers or too much labouring of an area. So if an area really does need fixing, don't keep going at it. Better to let it dry and go over the top, or even pull out the paint with a kitchen roll while it's wet and then let it dry and go again. It's almost a case of the more pigment and paint we put on, the worse an area can get. If you can achieve what you want in a couple of passes, or ideally even one pass, then great. So number 7, look for simple shapes and paint simple shapes. Sounds easy. Learning to squint and look at your subject in its simplest terms, broken down into simple but accurate shapes, and then forcing yourself to try and recreate these is a crucial part of painting. It does take some practice, but watercolour loves this approach, and if you keep on this path of looking for big general shapes and simplifying areas, watercolour will reward you with lovely, fresh and lively paintings. And there are various ways to do this and things to look for, but a good place to start, I think, is looking for simple shapes of similar tonal values. And for me, understanding tonal values and learning to simplify them, as well as kind of linking them together or linking together similar tonal values, this underpins everything in painting. And the entire first part of this whole Watercolour Bite series is on tonal values, so do be sure to check those out. Number 8, don't be scared of colour and have fun with it. A bit of colour theory can go a long way to help you with not only feeling maybe more confident with your colour in your paintings as a whole, but it will also really help when you're learning to mix colours. But in some ways, actually more importantly, don't be afraid to step away from the colours that you see in your subject. We don't have to slavishly and perfectly represent the colours in our subject to make a good painting. In fact, that's a great bonus point in itself. Don't feel you have to perfectly copy your subject. Decide what it is about your subject that really inspires you, and then focus your attention on capturing that. Don't be afraid to disregard and edit out information that doesn't support your vision. Number 9, watercolour loves bold and confident brushstrokes. Obviously, this is easier said than done, and confidence comes with experience, but if you can find a way to be more decisive with your brushstrokes, and strokes being the important word, rather than say kind of tentatively poking and prodding the paint, this medium will love you. And actually the easiest way to create nice brushstrokes is, again, to just really have fun with it. Watercolour brushes are wonderful things, and the way that they hold and release the water and the pigment is a total joy. So enjoy making marks, enjoy what your brush does. Each one has its own little personality, so get to know them. And all of this kind of light, fresh enjoyment of your materials will always show through in your painting, making them lively and exciting to look at, even if they're not perfect, because no paintings are perfect, especially not in the eyes of the creator. So we might as well enjoy the process. Very finally, number 10, little and often. Watercolour by its nature is a very immediate medium, with the sort of watercolour paintings I enjoy looking at and painting generally being done in one sitting, so kind of a la prima, all at once. And with this immediacy, we have an opportunity to produce a lot of paintings. And whilst we might progress to doing some longer format pieces, when we're starting out, and also for more experienced painters actually, getting a good amount of paintings under your belt, I think, is one of the best things you can do. It allows you to make a lot of mistakes, but not get bogged down in them. It allows you to quickly assimilate what you are learning over and over again. No, we don't want to be totally thoughtless and just kind of blast through tons of paintings with no care whatsoever. But at the same time, we don't need to be too precious about them. If one doesn't work out, and there will be plenty that don't, we can take what we've learned and we can apply it straight away in another painting, and repetition is the best way to improve quickly. Yes, life has a way of stopping us from getting to our creativity, but if you can get into a little and often rhythm, you will see some really great progression with your work. That's it, guys. I would love to hear what your favourite tip was, and feel free to give me your favourite tip that wasn't in there too. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for lots more to come, and you can find more from me at all of the links in the description below. Until next time, happy living, and of course, happy painting.